Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and video show which brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe so you won't miss a new episode. I'm your host, Frits Bussemaker, and today I'm delighted and privileged to have a conversation with Denis Sklyarov. Denis, welcome to the program.
Hello, hi, thank you for having me here.
Denis, you are the CEO of WiFi Map. That's going to be the main topic of today's discussion. You have a background in finance, and this is like the biggest coincidence because I was triggered by the fact that you launched Wi-Fi, and then when I started to read on your profile, I saw that you were educated at Pace University Leuven School of Finance in New York. And that also happens to be the school where my current eldest is finishing her master's. So I had to wear the t-shirt.
What a coincidence. Amazing. Thank you for wearing the t-shirt. Love the colors.
Well, you recognize that. So first of all, let's start with that education. So why did you want to decide to go with Pace University?
So the story starts a few years prior to that when my family immigrated from Ukraine to United States. This was in the early 90s, and I went to high school. It was a new world, it was a new country, it was a new language, and a lot of kids from our neighborhood were just applying to few schools that are within the vicinity from where we lived. And Pace University was one of them. A lot of people went to NYU, Columbia. I wasn't the best student, so Columbia was definitely out of reach. I tried applying to NYU and a few other schools, and Pace was a good fit for me. A lot of my friends, high school friends, were going to Pace, and I kind of just went with the flow, and it was one of the best choices I made in this life.
Okay, yeah. And why was it a good choice for you?
So I had an opportunity to take a lot of information systems classes while in Leuven, and I got exposed in early days to the concept of just information systems. I believe that everything is sooner or later will become digital, even though it wasn't that obvious in the 90s just yet. And I saw all the cousins of mine and other immigrants kind of pursuing career in computer science back then and making themselves a good living. So I went to Pace. I graduated there from information systems, and thanks to Pace, I got my first job while still being in school. I got an offer from ADP, automatic data processing, one of the Fortune 500 companies, to start there first as an intern, and then I ended up spending 5 years in that company, going from intern to product manager and project manager, and just got exposed to a whole new world of data processing, information systems, and I was part of the settlement group that was processing trades for New York Stock Exchange. So I just got exposed to this new world of stocks. It was just all fascinating. I loved it.
Okay, but you've given something fascinating. Often I ask in these interviews, okay, what inspires you? Why did you make a decision? But just seeing what your friends are doing is in this case just good enough. I mean, they're making a good living, and so just keeping your eyes open and what's happening close around you is in itself, yeah.
Absolutely, I think a lot of it comes down to is who's your surrounding, who are you growing up with, what are their family values, what are they dreaming about, what are they looking to pursue. You're gonna be probably an average of those individuals that are close to you. So I didn't have a similar surrounding in Ukraine. A lot of my childhood friends weren't planning on pursuing any higher education back home. And here I ended up in this circle of friends that were just all ambitious and looking to do something in this life.
Yeah, but is it even more than ambitious? Because what you're also describing is that in the environment, I'd say back home in Ukraine, you might not have been motivated to pursue a career you have right now. But this environment where you came into also demonstrated you have the skills, the capacity to actually do what you want to do.
Yes, and it's also the fact that overnight you kind of become an immigrant.
Yeah.
And you change your mindset completely, right? So our parents and ourselves, we had to start fresh life.
Yeah.
Obviously, we were always told we didn't make the move just for you to end up being a factory worker somewhere. Or you could have been a factory worker at home. Not that there's something wrong with the factory, but parents' expectations were
Yeah.
kind of high, and
Okay.
that's one of the drivers as well.
Okay, so I mean,
That
okay, the mindset changed, but can you specify how it changed? What changed?
changed with the fact that now we came from the country that where the whole after USSR broke down, there was zero opportunities. The whole government shut down, um, and we end up in a country full of opportunities where you can become anyone you want. You want to be a doctor, you want to be a lawyer, you want to be a computer guy. Opportunities are here. You don't need connections. You don't need your parents to be someone. Just you. Uh, yeah, well,
Okay, got it. So that's the mindset. Just the lesson learned is that the environment is quite key in also directing you to what you can do or not. Okay. Now, after a
yeah,
couple
I'm a strong believer in that.
Yeah. Okay. Now, after a couple of years in finance, at a certain point, you started the company, an organization called Wi-Fi Map.
So
First of all, what is it and why
yeah,
did you start it?
once again, we have to take few years before that. So
Okay.
I had a childhood friend who's my partner in Wi-Fi Map. His name is Igor. We grew up together in Ukraine. At the same time, when I moved to the United States, he ended up moving to Israel. And became one of the most brilliant computer scientists, architecture guys, and got all the education from top Israeli schools. And when the first iPhones were coming out, Igor was the one to spot the new trend, and he said that he sees a big future with Apple phones and the newly developed App Store, and that the number of apps are just going to increase, and somewhat of a visionary. And I didn't join him right away, but I did join him into this company few years into it, and we started developing apps for United States companies, and that was the business. And at one point, we kind of came to realize that just being outsourced and implementing others' business ideas into reality is not what we're really after, because you're kind of like the hungry wolf. You're always looking for that new project, and we wanted to be more of a start developing our own products. Wi-Fi Map was one of those products, so there wasn't an expectation to take over the world or build $1 billion company. We saw a clear need that internet was just lacking everywhere. On your travels, domestically, there was people with limited data plans. Wi-Fi only devices were coming out, and just combination of things made us realize that the problem is just worldwide, and there's a need for people to know places where they can get free internet.
Okay.
And with that idea, Wi-Fi Map was created. very straight to the point, very user-centric, just solving one problem, Wi-Fi Finder tool. And we asked ourselves, by what means we're gonna tell people where these locations are? How would we keep it updated? And that's where we decided to involve crowdsource. So anytime one of our users ended up in a McDonald's or Starbucks or pizzeria that offered free Wi-Fi, they would add this location onto the map, just make it available to the rest of the community. And it just went viral. It kind of just went viral. We were a small team of like 4 or 5 guys, and back then there was no like in-app purchases. Back then there was just like a free and a premium version of the app. So the whole game was just you offer limited functionality in the free version. You drive your users to the paid version for $5. None of the VCs liked that idea. None of the angels kind of didn't see any means for us to monetize it. And we didn't go after any funding. We had few opportunities. We kind of bootstrapped the whole process just ourselves. 10 years later, we've been downloaded more than 170 million times. We have over 5 million monthly active users. We have over 40 people working on our team. We provide much more than just a simple Wi-Fi Finder tool. We offer eSIM data plans in over 72 countries worldwide. We offer a secure connection through the VPN. We offer offline maps that allow people to save those locations prior to traveling, speed test, the number of just currency converted, number of different utility functions that we feel help travelers and just everyday people in their lifestyle requests.
Hey, Dennis, hold on a second. I mean, you just described in a couple of sentences an amazing global platform with 150 million or 170 million users. And you said before you actually mentioned those numbers, it went viral. When did you realize it became viral? Was that with the first 10 users, 100 users, 1 million users? When did you think it was big?
So it's hard to pinpoint right now. I remember clearly 2 instances. One of them is that in early days of the App Store, there were these guys that called app of the day. And their whole business model was that they would take a premium version of the app and would allow their users to download it for free for the 24 hours. And then or 48 hours. And then after that time frame, they were just disconnected, but the wave of people already knows about the app. They still come, they still download, or maybe some of them will purchase. So we tried that. And that day when we ran the promo, we got 935,000 downloads. So we got 1 million downloads almost in that day, and then another like 600,000 downloads. The following day, we made our first $100,000. I understood that there was a business.
Yes.
And so that was one of those.
Almost literally an overnight success.
It was about 8 months into it. Yeah. But you know how they say it's overnight success, but there's a 5 years of hard work and then 3 years of sleepless nights, and then yes, it's overnight success.
No, there's a lot of nights, a lot of hard sweat before it becomes that overnight success. But I mean, I can imagine. No, I can imagine, but I'm going to ask you. So, how did you wake up? How did you realize that you almost hit 1 million? What does that do for you? What did that do for the team? Were you scared? Were you happy?
No, I'm. It was a great adrenaline rush. And I loved it. And once you experience it, you're looking for that second day, right? You're looking for that. How do I make this happen again? When is that second day when I'm gonna have another 1 million downloads and another day? Wow. And then maybe for like 5 months into it, that day came where we were sitting and we thought it's funny. We experienced identical situation about 2 weeks ago. But so we thought it was a DOS attack, or someone is trying to hack the app. The servers were just overloaded. We couldn't realize what was happening, and we had a lot of people, and all these requests were coming from Morocco, and we had no idea. And only about 2 days or 3 days later, maybe about so, we realized that there was a gentleman that, without any knowledge of ours, decided, he used our app, he loved it, and he decided to record a video about us in Arabic to his audience. He was, I believe, he was a Berkeley graduate from California, and he had a pretty big tech audience. He was reviewing different apps and solutions that he liked, and that video, I think, gained like 1.3 million views. And what happened was that we just went viral through the Middle East, because now all these other YouTubers saw the success of his videos. They tried to look into and replicate that interesting content for their audiences. So all of a sudden we look, and there's like hundreds of videos in Arabic in different countries, from like Morocco to Iraq, Syria, Egypt, and just people downloading and loving the app. And that was that second point. That was like a true virality, where nobody really spoke back then about influencers and KOLs, key opinion leaders. It wasn't one of those concepts just yet, but it was obvious that that social media and the influence marketing was something that can take a business and make it viral overnight, as long as you have the right product for the audience, obviously.
You have just mentioned like 2 milestones for the product, the WiFi Map product. Are these also key milestones in your life, in your career, or do you then look for other experiences which you consider a milestone for your own career, your life?
Career or my life?
Both.
So I try to be a well-rounded individual, right? I'm not trying to be just the best businessman, so to speak. I kind of try to be a good businessman, good father, good husband. I like sports. To me, it's a combination of things. So career-wise, I always wanted to lead. I always tried to have my own businesses. This is not my first business. Even while working in early days for corporate, I had a side business that was running, and I've traveled internationally prior to Wi-Fi Map to start a company in Moscow. I spent 2 years of my life there, about 15 years ago. So I've always looked for opportunities. Wi-Fi Map definitely came very close to my heart, and then overtook my life completely. As far as milestones for us, a big milestone was recently. This April was a big milestone. We launched our own cryptocurrency. I've been dreaming about this day for about 4 years, waiting for the right opportunity. And it's a utility token that we use to further reward people that are building out the network, building out and are active in our ecosystem. They get rewarded with our own currency, and that currency can be spent back within our app on the internet. So it's a great idea, because one can he doesn't have to buy any expensive routers. He doesn't have to be this computer scientist or genius. He can take his phone on his way. He can map few pizzerias and few Starbucks and few venues that might come of help to other community members. He gets rewarded with our tokens, and then he turns around with 2 clicks of a button. He gets himself internet, a gigabyte, 3 gigabyte, 10 gigabytes, and now he eliminates the need for any other providers, so to speak. So that was a big milestone for us.
Okay.
And for me personally.
Okay. And the fact that you moved from Ukraine to the States, was that a milestone, or were you too young to recognize that as a milestone?
So I was too young to realize that it was a milestone. Obviously, number of years after that, it was clear that this was an opportunity of a lifetime. I won a lottery, and just have to use it wisely.
Okay. Hey, moving on, Dennis. What you've described for me sounds like, okay, you hit the jackpot with this technology, but also I'm hearing you saying you've already were an entrepreneur when in other jobs. So was that like a continuous success or was it a bumpy ride? Were there any mistakes or failures along the way where you say, hey, that's actually an opportunity where I learned a lot because of what happened to me at the time?
So at the time, I thought a lot of them were failures. Looking back, I realized that it was just part of the learning process, that I had to go through those steps, I had to go through those failures to become better. And I don't consider myself a super successful businessman at the moment, but I definitely have experience, and I use it. I use it where I have certain principles that I follow. Things have a tendency of just repeating themselves regardless what business you're in.
Okay, can you give me an example of a failure which was you considered a failure at the time, and in hindsight, hey, that's actually where I learned the lesson?
So it's very, very simple. So at one point in my life, I was a day trader. I got a Series 7 license and I was trading New York Stock Exchange equities, just day trading. And to make the long story short, I just lost all my money. It wasn't a big amount, but I lost all of it. And I had to go back to work, corporate. I had to go back to Wall Street and get myself another job. And but I loved trading, and inside of me, it was a big failure. I tried to do something. I studied. I got the license. I wanted to be successful, and just it didn't work out. And it might not be relative to the business, but many years later, 10 years later, when the cryptocurrency came about, well, cryptocurrency was using the same order entry screens, just like any other stocks. It was just different three letters. So to me, it was very, very familiar, and it was such an easy play back then. Because the market wasn't nowhere as efficient as the Dow Jones at the time, right? And then stuff was just going up, so it was very easy for me to get into it, and it helped me make some decent money by being early in it, and by having that prior, what I was considered failure, now knowledge in my hands, where I didn't have to learn anything new. I realized that I knew what buy and sell and stop limit orders were, so market orders. So it was just like very easy to figure the stuff out.
Okay, so the lesson there is also you'll never know how you're going to use and apply the knowledge you've gained, the experience you gained in the future. So keep not maybe keep holding of that knowledge, but at least remember what you've done because you might use it again.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think one other lesson that I've learned from my early days was that um, I just didn't stick around long enough in some businesses. That I've made a decision to stop, quit, sell, whatever the case was, just very early, very prematurely. And when I was starting Wi-Fi Map, I actually said to myself that, you know what, with this business, I'm not gonna quit ever. Either I'm gonna take it to the moon or it's gonna die with me, but I'm not quitting this business. And that came only from the previous experiences, from just making wrong decisions on when to stop. So
Don't stop too early.
don't stop too early.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I'm also hearing you saying is I'm making an assumption. If you have a vision for a product or service or a gut feeling, this should be something people want. Also trust that feeling and give it a little bit more time because it's going to take some years before people catch on.
Yeah, I mean, as an entrepreneur, I think you have to be in peace with yourself. I think you have to learn how to listen to your sixth sense, intuition, whatever you call it. But uh, there's no one to help you. You have to make the decisions, right, wrong, and the intuition always helps. I try to follow my inner self kind of advices often.
So you're saying there's no one to help you, but we also live in a day and age where there are specific for startups. There are a lot of communities out there which are very much meant to coach and help people along. Um, what's your take on that? And by the way, uh, do people approach you for advice and guidance, or do you feel that hey, that's not really
So I'm always being approached for advice and guidance by mostly just younger guys, young entrepreneurs, not necessarily just from information systems world. And I help anywhere I can with the guidance, advices. I don't do anything formal because my I try to keep like 100% of my concentration on the project that I run, but I'm always there to help. Um, I did have a few individuals in earlier days that I'm thankful to that gave me a number of advices and showed me a few ways on how I might navigate. One of them being Ben Feder, ex-CEO of Take-Two Interactive, guys behind GTA, and gave me a lot of food for thought, streamlined in the right direction. And as far as coaching or various programs, I'm just not into that stuff. I wanna just like I don't go to gypsies to predict the future. I kind of want to go through this life and experience it all and be ready to whatever comes my way.
okay, but also a good
It's
lesson
good.
to young advisors and young managers out there who want to start their own journey that uh, pick an
Dive into it.
environment, dive into it, but what also suits you. Some people want to have as much of that guidance as possible, rational or irrational, and others say, no, look, that's not for me. I'm going to do it my way. Um,
I think there's only so much one can teach you. I think it's like, yes, someone can prepare you for the marriage, but unless you married and you go through it, nobody really is going to prepare you, right?
yeah, no, yeah, very much understand that advice. Now,
Like there are, sorry to interrupt, but just few examples of that, just the simple fact of just hiring people, managing people, firing people, where you have to be somewhat of a psychologist often for a lot of them. The fact that, a lot when you're on the top, you only deal with problems most of the time, right? You kind of a problem solver. It's a certain mindset that I think unless you start being in that environment, it's very hard to just understand it through theory.
I got it. Should walk the talk, just do it, and throw yourself in the deep end. That's your advice.
That's mine, yes. I'm very aggressive in sports. I'm aggressive in business. I go for the kill kind of.
Okay. Hey, then one last question for me. Then I really enjoy this conversation so far. Do you see a future beyond Wi-Fi Map, or is this going to be where you're also going to retire from?
I think that's where I'm going to be retiring from. I hope so, at least. That's my goal. It's my goal. It's been a very difficult journey, exhausting at times. and I'm not sure if I have it in me to do it for the second time, to start from scratch and do it all over again. But the appetite comes while you eat. So I just maybe another opportunity that I see, I'll pursue. I've always wanted to see businesses where I participate that have scalability. I think that it takes the same amount of time, stress, to do little things. So you might as well do big things. So I'm only interested in like big things that can impact the world, can change the world, can help millions of people. Not so much money concentrated maybe, but more because I feel like if you accomplish all these things, if you help millions of people, money will come, money will follow. You do the right thing, you solve people's problem, you help them, money will follow. So I hope that, I mean, we're just getting started in Wi-Fi Map. There's a lot of plans, a lot of goals, and no plans to start anything new.
Well, Dennis, that's actually a very interesting remark to end with, that you just started with Wi-Fi Map. As we just discussed, 170 million users, 2 million reviews in over 70 countries. So I'm really curious and interested when you're going to be finished, because if you just started, and this is what you see as a starting point, a lot's going to come.
Amen. Hopefully, yes. I mean, my goal is to bring free internet to the next billion people. So right now we do about 4 million Wi-Fi connections a day. And each one of those connections, it's not just a connection. To us, it's just a connection. But to a lot of people, it's access to information, it's access to knowledge, to truthfulness. Knowledge has the power of stopping wars. And the internet connection, it's not just connectivity, right? There's always a need behind it, whether it's knowledge, whether it's communication with your loved ones, whether it's some sort of an emergency. So I really like to think that, okay, maybe we didn't help yesterday the 4 million people, but if we helped 5, that's already success. And that's the approach. And we want to change this world. We feel that internet is just fundamental right. It's just like having water, shelter, food. Everyone should have it. People should have access to free internet, and hopefully with our little venture or big venture, we just keep on bringing the world closer and closer to that place.
Hey, Dennis, I want to thank you so much for ending this discussion with the why, because I think you've indicated why it's so important. So I want to thank you so much for sharing your story of Wi-Fi Map, how you got there. And well, I wish you then success growing up. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
And thank you that you're speaking, and I'm speaking to a former PACE student. Thank you so much.
Thank you, PACE University. Best of luck to all students.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.